Have you ever noticed how fast the time goes when you're focused on something important? Or how slow it feels when you are bored out of your mind? Isn't that weird? We know that time is a construct and is constant. But why does it shift when we're in a different headspace? The same can be said about our acting careers. When things are popping up, we seem to manage quite well. When things are slow, not going our way, we seem to focus on how slow our progress is. Giving time is one way we can be career-minded and not focused on how slow it seems to be moving. Giving time. On this episode of Casting Actors Cast.
This is Casting Actors Cast, the podcast video for actors in the business of show to help make a difference in your acting and your acting career. Here's your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello, and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting partner Jeffrey Dreisbach with the McCorkle Casting Group in New York. How are you? I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a good day and looking forward to bringing this information to you today. It's a little cerebral. It's a little bit kind of talking about the philosophical viewpoint in terms of our acting career, but I think I hope you'll find it really fun and kind of interesting. But first, this is that moment of the podcast where I simply get to say thank you for tuning into Casting Actors Cast. We are excited to continue to be able to send these podcast videos your way, and the only thing I ask in return is that you let me know that you are out there. Please give me a thumbs up, a like, a review on iTunes would be awesome, would be really, really helpful as we continue to grow the podcast. Additionally, this is my shout out to my good friends at Actors Connection. Hey, listen, if you haven't checked out Actors Connection yet, I encourage you to do so. These are professionals in the industry currently working that are teaching all kinds of workshops, seminars, classes. So all you need to do is go to actorsconnection.com/New York. Finally, I want to give my pitch to my website, castingactorscast.com. That's castingactorscast, all one word.com. There you're going to find some additional information about the podcast, but there's also a form right there on the landing page that says dive into our talent pool. And if you do that, it's going to open up some freebies for you. One is a book I wrote on voiceover work called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the voiceover workshop for professional actors. Wow, good work. And then the next one is it's a free video all about casting secrets, what they don't tell you. But I'm going to be telling you in this 20-minute video. It's a private video only to be found when you go to castingactorscast, all one word.com. All right, let's jump into the subject matter at hand, shall we? There are so many reasons that we can talk about being unhappy with our careers. I can't tell you how many times I'm just talking to actors and they seemed to be very frustrated with the lack of direction sometimes, or that it's just not going as quickly or as meaningfully as they want it to. And so I thought this was a good reason to bring up this podcast. And there are many reasons that we are continually dissatisfied with how our careers are going. And let's talk about some of those things that make us unhappy or dissatisfied. One, we expected it to happen sooner, right? We want and think that our careers should be sort of a normal trajectory, that we continue to get hired for our acting work and that continues to grow and our jobs get better and better. And then we transition into film and television, and then we start doing parts in television shows, and then maybe movies come along. So we have this idea. And the idea is that it should happen sooner rather than later. So when it doesn't happen that way, we have a tendency to feel unworthy. Gosh, it didn't happen the way that it's supposed to. Why not? And boy, that's a lot of ammunition to beat ourselves up with, isn't it? The second reason, our projection, our thought process about how our success is going to happen is never real. You know what I'm saying? We have this idea about what it is to be successful. And success for every one of us is slightly different, perhaps. But I know in my acting days, projecting about, what was going to be the thing that was going to turn the corner in my career, it never is the way I expected it. So our projection, our fantasy about our success is never, ever what we think it should be. Number 3, this is so true for everybody, I think, but external circumstances interrupt our career plans. How many times have we had an idea about what we want to do next, and gosh darn it, it's inevitable, right? Something happens that makes you have to change your focus, change the way you approach your career trajectory, change the way you plan the career to go, shifts because of some external circumstances. It could be relationships, it could be family, it could be job, it could be whatever circumstance you might find yourselves in. Something always seems to come in to interrupt our career goals and our career plans. Maybe that applies to you. Maybe that is ringing true for you at this moment. Number 4, we allow rationalization to keep us from forward thinking. When things don't quite go well, or maybe there's not the auditions you were hoping for, or maybe there are just not that many auditions going on, we have a tendency to fill in those gaps, and rather than look at ourselves, sometimes we rationalize. Well, summer theater's probably already cast, and so there's probably not a lot out there for me. You know how it goes. So we rationalize ourselves just to keep us from going crazy, thinking that this is something we're doing wrong, or we look at the external situation and rationalize what's going on out there to keep us from forward thinking. When I'm saying forward thinking, I'm saying strategizing your next career move. So rationalization keeps us from trying to figure out what to do next. That's number 4 on things that we do to ourselves when we don't give time. Number 5, this is so true, I think, but the pace is never comfortable for processing naturally. The pace is never, it doesn't ever happen the way it is supposed to. Well, when I say the way it is supposed to, the way we are projecting. And so therefore, it becomes very stressful and we get very uncomfortable because it's not supposed to happen this way. And yet, there it is. So now, let me just talk about giving time. There are things that we do that happen to us when we make the choice to just let time be what it is. Number 1, it allows us to breathe. I know, sounds silly, but it's true. I can't tell you how many times I've just felt like once I take a cleansing breath, I get a slightly different perspective on the situation. Stress causes shallow breathing many times, and we start thinking about our career and what's not happening in our career. We have a tendency to stress out about it. Breathing is the first thing that seems to be just kind of, kicks us in the rear end because we're not doing it correctly. We sort of let the stress of the day affect our just natural function. Breathing, of course. I can't think of another natural function. Number 2, it's important that when we give time, we also are able to understand what is within our control and what is not. If there is a secret to life, to understanding why we are here on this earth, I think it's to understand what we have control over and what we do not. And when we get to that place of understanding, we are able to simply relax into who we are and what we are about. Number 3, giving time. When we allow time to just be what it is, it prevents us from unrealistic expectations. We stop projecting beyond the immediate, and we are able to therefore move on. And so think about it. That thing that directors tell actors all the time is to be in the moment. Unrealistic expectations are really dangerous to sort of figure out, this is going to happen next, or this audition better get me the job, or, whatever we do to ourselves. We are able to move on if we have realistic expectations. Number 4, some things sometimes work out without our influence, right? In other words, sometimes doing nothing is something. We don't necessarily have to have our hand into every little minutia element of our career. There are people around us that can support us. We can do what we can do. We understand what is something we have control over and what we don't have control over. But you know what? Sometimes just leaving stuff alone has a tendency to work itself out in a really positive way. You know what I'm talking about, right? When you're able to just let go a little bit and not feel like you have to project yourself into the next 5 years of your career. Therefore, number 5, you're allowing more opportunities to present themselves in a proper way. So you're actually allowing other things to come in for you to consider. I hope that's useful for you. The best practices for giving time. Here are some suggestions I'm making to help you with this concept. 1, make the plan and turn it into action that you have control over. Simply make choices and decisions that you have some semblance of understanding and therefore control. An example, taking a class. Making sure your auditions are as good as they can be. Making contact with those people in your past that are also trying to achieve the same career objectives. Getting together with like-minded individuals is an extremely healthy way to reconnect and also refocus your energies into the right career path. Number 2, feel prepared and then await for opportunities. You've heard me say this before. When preparation meets opportunities, you have a career. So it's not about being prepared. It's about feeling like you are ready. See, a lot of times, I think actors are waiting to have something happen to them before they feel ready. And I'm saying just the opposite. It's important that you understand that you are ready to go. And therefore, when you feel that way, you're opening up additional opportunities for yourself. It's amazing how that works. Number 3, I'm asking you to also embrace healthy distraction. There are some really excellent ways in which you can find healthy distraction from your obsessive compulsive self thinking about where your career isn't. You know what I mean? It's about, listen, go for a walk, rent a boat and row around the lake. Okay, I'm not talking literally, although if you have a lake and you can row around it, I think that might be a really cool idea. But the idea is looking for things that can really just distract you in a healthy way so that you're not just mired in this very tedious thought process of why your career isn't going the way you want it to. I also think that you should monitor your progress in a meaningful way. In other words, what guideposts are you using that are supportive of the choices that you are making in your career? Guideposts can be whether or not you're satisfied with an agent or a manager, or whether this class is challenging you the way you think you should be challenged, or whether you're working on those projects that you know you should be working on, but maybe you put on the shelf for a while. Once you have those guideposts and understand that these are things that I can monitor my progress, you're in a much more secure and better place to feel better about yourself. Please also, number 5, know that it is a marathon and not a 100-yard dash that you need to finish. Every actor, I don't care how successful or popular or rich or famous, it doesn't matter, but everyone has a level of impatience. And anyone who has any level of success will tell you that they had impatience. And the minute that they just decided to show up, you know, some days all you got to do is show up. The minute that that happens, and the minute you show up consistently, is the minute that you'll start to see some of those career shifts in a positive direction, and how that will affect your overall state of mind. So as I move forward in my work and in my life in general for that matter, I'm always struck by how I use my frustration against me. Do you do that? Rather than taking a moment to see the big picture, many times I have to tell you, I get lost in the maze of what I call the immediate. I get lost in that. I indulge that, and then I get lost in it. This keeps me stressed until something else happens to distract me. I hope you can relate to that, because I think many creative people do the same thing. You might be one, so therefore, let's do better. Let's try to remember to breathe. Let's take a step back and know that we are exactly where we need to be. You know what? That's giving time. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, and this is Casting Actors Cast. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining Casting Actors Cast. Please don't forget to review, like, and share Casting Actors Cast wherever you get your podcast videos. Thanks. I'm Megan Grace Martinez.